We have a warm welcome to a good friend. Many of you know Lisa Hendey. Thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, it's awesome to be here. I always love coming for a visit.
We love having you. And I got to visit your TV station, KNXT.
KNXT,
recently.
Diocese of Fresno,
Yeah.
represent. Yeah,
Very cool.
They loved you, by the way.
I love them. I did. Had fun.
We've been saying yes all morning long.
I
I
know.
want to talk to you about this great book, The Grace of Yes. And I know it's a little bit of a departure from what you normally write. And maybe if you could talk a little bit about that and how you decided to share this kind of a personal faith story.
You know, my other books have been for mothers, and I really, in contemplating this book, wanted to do something for a broader audience. So this is a book about two things, really. About saying yes to God's will for our life, and then the generosity of spirit that results from that, and trying to cultivate within us this attitude of yes to God and yes to the world around us.
In a very real sense, though, I mean, this is connected to motherhood because
Absolutely.
Obviously it's a reference to the yes that the Mother of God, the Mother of Jesus, spoke, which has made all the difference.
Mary's
in the world.
fiat, she's the role model for our yes. I mean, the perfect role model for you and your vocation, for us and our vocation to the married life and to parenthood. And actually, the little fish on the cover of my book is named Fiat by our readers. But Mary is really the role model for this, and we're trying to emulate her yes in challenging times and grace-filled times, just to be there and what God calls each of us to do.
Yeah, and we mentioned the biggest yes in the Bible with Mary, but there are many yeses in the Bible as well, and some are kind of happen and some take a while to happen.
Right.
But talk a little bit about that and how you sort of find your own yes and your own style to answer.
I have to say, for me, as I get a little bit older, I'm learning about this time of discernment, even with decisions that aren't huge decisions. There's a chapter in the book about the grace of no, and when it's appropriate to kind of give a no answer if something isn't in line with our path to heaven or best serving our vocation. But for me, I'm trying to train myself now to have this generous attitude to the world around me, but also to be more discerning and more ponderous about God's call, what He's really calling me to. I haven't heard any of those visions that I hear that people have. I wish I did, but so it takes being in. I know, what is it, Father Reed? Like, come on, God.
It could happen.
But just trying to put myself in the position to even hear them, like finding silence each day, finding time for morning prayer. Really just what it is that, and sometimes the yes happens when we have our agenda and 15 things happen along the way that call us away from that agenda. Those are our yes moments where we're called to be recognizing the face of Christ in those people that need us.
Now, I want people to know the book is already out there, but you're launching your social media campaign right here today in the living room on Catholic TV. Hashtag graceofyes.com. So if you're tweeting anything about Lisa and her new book or anything at all, just put that hashtag
Father
on
Reed, let me tell you, we're actually celebrating hashtag Grace of Yes Day today, November 18th. And this is a day for people not to talk about the book, but to talk about their own yes to God. Okay. So they can go over to avemariapress.com/Grace of Yes Day to find signs just like the ones that you're holding. And we want them to share their message. And it's amazing. We've already had tweets and Facebook posts from Brazil, from Italy, from all around the United States. It's been fabulous. So Grace of Yes Day.
Now, you share many ways to say yes to virtues, but what's your least favorite and why?
My least favorite or my most challenging? I had a really interesting time writing the chapter on the grace of humility. In the work that we do, sometimes it's really easy to begin having a false perception of our own holiness, our own worthiness. And so I'm really struggling with trying to remain humble in my yes to God. And tied into that is this forgiveness. And there's a piece in the book about my trip to Rwanda last year and what I learned from genocide survivors about true reconciliation and forgiveness. I really believe that forgiveness is really tied into that factor of humility, and it's one I'm still working on, to be honest.
We were talking a little bit beforehand too, and this is very very personal book.
Yes.
And maybe if you could share with us what it was like to share you to a lot of people.
It really is. I mean, the readers of CatholicMom.com have known my family for a long time. The website started 15 years ago. So you know some of these stories, but this is a very permanent telling, almost a memoir of my husband's conversion story, the raising of our children to young adulthood, and how that's kind of helped me to be where I am in my own spiritual life. And to tell you the truth, it's scary. I mean, you know this from being an author yourself, Father Reed, that when you put your work out there of any kind, it's scary, but especially when it becomes your personal story, exposing yourself in that way. And yet Pope Francis calls us in the new evangelization to walk and encounter with people. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's worth the risk to really share many of my flaws, as I do in the book, and to say, let's pray together for these things. Let's work together on this journey.
I think of just, my day thus far, just getting up, you have to say yes to that, and getting ready, saying your prayers, putting your best foot forward. I've been to a number of meetings already today, and I want to give myself entirely that. Isn't every day in our lives a series of occasions to say yes to God's will?
It absolutely is. And I woke up this morning with the Daughters of St. Paul at the convent.
Nice.
And had morning prayer with sisters who've been in their vocation for over 60 years. For some of them, it's a yes to walk down the hallway to morning prayer. And we have a chapter in the book on the grace of vulnerability, and even giving our yes at times when our health is declining, or we're struggling with unemployment or addiction issues or any kind of problems. How it is that even in those moments we find our yes to God.
Well, we want to let people know how they can get the grace of yes, if you could share with us.
Please visit your local Catholic bookstore. They really need our support. We thank them for what they do. You can find it at AveMariaPress.com, Amazon.com, or Barnes & Noble.
Excellent.
All those places where great Catholic books are sold.
Absolutely, including Renewed.
And the Grace of Yes, don't forget this as well. Hashtag.
Grace of Yes Day. Please be a part of this with
remember
us.
That.
Hashtag Grace
Let
of Yes Day.
know.
You're invited. Come grab the pictures and tell about your own yes to God.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank
for being
you.
with
Thanks
us.
for your support.
Yeah.
Yeah.